Hey everyone, welcome to ArtCo Afternoon Arts. Thank you for joining me. My name's Amber. I'm the artistic director / cat herder around here, and today we're going to be working on a really fun technique using old credit cards or old gift cards. You know, if you get these for a gift from maybe somebody far away for a special occasion or a birthday, or say, you know, it's a card you don't use anymore. Well, we can use this as a, non-traditional art tool in order to push some paint around. So we're going to play around today because today's FriYay. It's a fun day to kind of play around with painting. So I like to explore a little bit on days like this, and I thought today would be a great day to play around with mixed media and to think out of the box on ways to apply the medium onto our paper or canvas, and then think about ways that we can use materials that we have around our house in order to do that. So cards, used up cards, are a really great tool. These are also a really great tool for printmakers. You save these a lot because you need these to clean off screens when you're doing screen printing, and I'm actually going to be showcasing a simple class on how to do some screen printing, and then I'll be linking some materials in, etc. once we get to the point that we do that. But y'all, we're about to start linking to materials in our videos. This will give you an easy way to access the materials that you need in order to follow along with our classes, come back and watch our videos after the fact once you get your materials in, and that way you can play around and experiment. And if you see how hard / whatever it is on our videos, then maybe this will kind of spur you on with the easy little click to kind of grab the things that you need. And usually the kind of classes that I do are fairly inexpensive, so this is a great way in order to explore, try things out, and then, you know, go from there. So I'm going to tap you down and we're going to take a look at all the materials. You see Doobie, he's already very excited, you can tell, as chill as ever. He's our original ArtCo cat. He's an original Deep Ellum Alley Cat. He's a fun little alley cat, switched over to house cat status, but he loves to hang out. He's my son's best friend and he likes playing with art too. So since we can't have our operations at ArtCo, figure, you know, at least have a good soul that was part of Deep Ellum before, have him be part of it. Plus he likes to watch y'all and even play with the materials sometimes. Alright, so I'm going to pop you down. We're going to take a look at our table. Now I've got a great little skinny canvas here. This is like an 8x12 canvas. Nothing super, or wait, no, maybe this is a 10x18 canvas. Sorry, maybe 11x14. 11x14. Hey, look, I can totally measure it. It is 11x14 would be the correct measurement on there, because I have a thing called a ruler on my desk. Yay, I'm getting my stuff together today, you guys. I'm also going to be using some soft pastels for this. This is going to help me draw on top of my painting, but I also kind of wanted to play around with mixed media, like I said. And I have this big box of stamps here, and so I've been trying to figure out ways to kind of integrate these and play with these in mixed media. So I thought today would be a perfect time, because I'm actually going to stamp all over my canvas before I get started, because I want to have these really big stamps kind of showing up on my canvas and peeking through the paint that I'm actually going to be pushing around on this canvas. So I'm just going to pull some colors out. I know I'm going to be pushing around, since I'm doing a mermaid, I'm going to have like blues and cool colors on my canvas that I'm pushing around, so I want to make sure I have some bold stuff that's going to pop through there. And then I've got to take a look at all the crazy stuff that I've already got. I've got a bunch of flowers here, which works great for the little mermaid S. That's pretty much all I've got, really, is flowers and medallions. If you guys have a bunch of different, look, I've got my bags. I love my plastic bags, y'all. If you've got a bunch of different stamps, then you can kind of pour around and kind of pull out what you have. If you don't have stamps, you don't have to do this part of the project, but this is just, ooh, I don't have enough light. This is just a way to, you know, play around, ooh, that's better, play around with all of our images and continue to kind of push on playing with all of our different ways of mixing our medias together. And so I thought this would be, again, pretty fun. Now I have a canvas. So my canvas is kind of smushy because it's not all a super hard surface. So I may have to hold on the back as I do some of my stamping on my canvas, and I'll show you that. So I'm going to go through, some of my stamp pads are not as big as my stamps. So I'm just going to take these guys and I'm going to hit them in a couple different spots. Sometimes you can do it upside down because it's not like the ink will go anywhere. And you can look at your stamp and kind of see from the shininess factor of it, of how, oh, can you guys see the reflection? There you go. Look at that. See how that whole thing's glistening really wonderfully. That means I've got a good layer of paint on there, or ink. And so I'm just going to take the stamp and I'm going to push on it on the other side and hold it in place. And I'm just going to get some of these. Now they're not going to come out super, super, super clear. And that's okay, because I'm not really looking for super clear. What I'm looking for is I'm just looking for a little bit of interest. But I can rub my fingers around on the bottom. You see how these come out in a different manner, and I'm just sliding my hand underneath them. That way I can get that stamp on there and I'm getting a good amount of pressure. If you happen to have a book that's the exact same size as your canvas, you can actually inset it inside of it so that you can also achieve a really nice hard surface that way as well. So I'm just taking these, I'm going to throw these on the canvas real quick. Remember, we're experimenting, we're playing with different ways in order to make our medium do things. And so this is a really fun way to kind of add a little sub-layer of stamp and color underneath what we're about to paint on here. So now I'm going to use my big black stamp pad, which is really big enough for what I need. And I'm going to continue. This one I'm going to make go off the board. And so I can kind of get my red and my black kind of pushing on there, and see how these kind of undulate in and out. Again, this is awkward teenage phase. I knew it was going to do this. I've done this technique before. It is a super fun technique, and it adds some really, really cool kind of spots of interest in the background when you're working with mixed media. Look at Doobs. Doobs is super interested in this. He really likes this the smell of the ink, I guess. I don't know, but now he's walking on my canvas. We're going to put you back up there. You can't walk on the artwork in process, Doobs. He really likes the smell of that ink. I've never seen him react to a paint like that. He must really like that, though. You see that? I've never seen him that excited about the smell of something, but he is really, really interested in that ink. That's funny. Okay, so I'm continuing to work on the rest of my thing here. I'm going to try to get him settled down. You settle down, mister. We're going to get you over here so that you can see the cat's very, very excited about this technique. I've never seen him act this way over stamping. It's funny. I'm going to pull a different color in here. Maybe we'll do a nice green. Ow. Get this guy here. And then I'm just going to continue to layer these on here. Again, we're not looking for super clear images. I'm just looking really in order to add a bit of interest that's going to come out from underneath my paint when I actually get it smeared onto my canvas. So I'm just going through, playing around with all these guys, and just really trying to get this stuff all kind of stamped in. And you see I can hit it a couple different times. And once you get about 3 different kind of shapes in here, it really kind of finishes itself out, and it really starts becoming this really cool, interesting design. So I think we're good with that. I'm going to put all this stuff back because I'm done with those inks. I've got to clean off my stamps later, so I'm just going to leave those up there so I've got all my materials taken care of and done and out of the way. So I'm going to scoot these guys over here so that I can clean up some of my stuff. Ooh, I also wanted to show you guys something. This is really cool. This is a really, really old stamping kit that was used for sign making back in the day. This was actually my grandfather's that I found in the house once he passed away. But it's really cool because he had old wood carving tools. I'm a wood carver, so it was really neat. I found an old wood carving set, and I found this really cool old sign making set. And so it's got all the little letters of the alphabet here, plus a couple simple words. And then of course it even had the original ink pad in here, which of course is long dried up, but still it was really neat to find something like that. So if you have alphabet letters, you can also use those on your pieces in order to play around with you know, your coloring, etc. I've got my cat trying to walk on my canvas again. He is really interested in that ink. It's really neat. Alright, so now I've got my piece here. Now I'm going to want to play around with my credit card painting. Again, we're going to use our gift card for this, and I wanted to work with a bunch of colors of the ocean and the deep. So I've got a bunch of different rando colors. I've got a random collection of colors here. And so I'm really just going to start with these. This is a super simple technique because I'm just going to take some paint here and I'm going to put it directly on a canvas. Not very much paint, just a little bit. And I'm going to take this guy and I'm just going to pull my card and I'm going to get him. Look at that. We're in the beginning. It's just getting started, guys. It's just getting started. And so I'm just going to go in here and we're going to play with some different colors here. I'm going to actually spread this one out a little bit so that I can get these guys kind of cross. Now we're going to play with these in a bunch of different ways. Oh, I need my rag. I'm going to clean off my card in between. See, I've got some extra paint. I don't want it to get too muddied if I'm using a bunch of different cards. And I don't have to wait for this to get dry. So I can continue to work on these and continue to get these really cool little segments of paint. And so you see, I'm going to create a nice little and so you see how that starts to just kind of bend it a little bit. I'm going to get a little bit of, well, I don't want to mess with the white yet. I'm going to get some nice deep blue down here. I want to back scrape this because I want to make sure I've got a little bit coming to my corner. So I'm going to use my card to kind of back scrape that. Now I've got ink on that side of the card but not this side. So I need to make sure I turn my card around so I can kind of get this guy over. And see, now I can start hitting in some different spots. Yeah? And so really we're just playing around with getting some different little spots of color on here. Really small amounts of paint. I can manipulate it a little bit before I go to the actual scrape and see how that really starts creating this cool, really look to our colors. I'm going to add a bit of white here. I'm actually going to cut this in half. See how I cut it in half and I picked up some of that paint? So I'm going to come down over here and I'm just going to hit it in a couple other spots. Maybe I'll pull some of that paint off the side. And so you see how we're really starting to build this cool abstract. And what's really fun is you can really kind of faintly see some of these little kind of marks of those stamps peeking out from underneath, which I think is really cool because visually this adds a whole nother layer of, I think, of depth to it. which I think is, you know, really fun. That's not a bad thing. That's a wonderful thing, actually. I'm going to mix some white and blue on here. A lot of white, a tiny touch of blue. Now remember, we're just focusing on the credit card painting part right now. We're going to have to move through this quickly, though, because I need to make sure that I've got enough. I'm creating kind of a sky, so I've got a bit of water down here. But maybe I don't want to do that. We just want to kind of play around and get everything kind of everywhere. Oops, wrong way. I didn't want to open it that way. So a bit of sky peeking through the water, maybe the depths. We can decide which way we want to orient our tail once we're done with this part. But now I'm just going to focus on, I've got enough paint on my canvas, and I also need to make sure that I am not making it too thick. So that's the other great thing about our credit card technique, is that we don't have to worry so much about putting our paint on thick, because this gives us a really great and fantastic texture. And then I'm going to get a little bit more light blue over here, and then I think we're going to be fairly finished out. And then maybe I'll add some more white in there, but I think otherwise it's going to be pretty darn good. So I'm using my credit card in order to get this cool abstraction in. And I think we're just going to kind of let it sit at that. I think this created a really fun kind of background. We can add a couple more bold dashes in here. I'm going to get a little bit of my bright green here, my dark, and then I'm actually going to add a touch of white, probably right there, and right there. So that creates a really fun kind of beginning for our mermaid tails. So I'm actually going to take my hairdryer now, and we're going to get this gal really dry. And so since we use a card to make sure that this stayed really, really thin, it's going to dry fairly fast, which is exactly what we need. All dry. Touch it to see if it's dry yet. See, I've got some little areas that still aren't totally dry. I can also use my card in order to do another swipe, just to make sure that we're evening out any areas that might be really thick that will hold up the drying process. I think that's fairly dry for now. So I've got a pretty good looking board here. I'm not really happy with this L look that I got right here, but I think I'll be able to cover that up when I do my drawing for my mermaid tail. Now I'm going to do something really simple for this, and we're really going to use our chalk just to outline our image, because we actually, what we want is we want to have this idea of what's called an implied line. So instead of drawing a line and coloring in, we want to color and avoid the line, and so like the background becomes the line. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by this with our nice soft pastels. So I'm going to pick out a soft pastel that's not super dark, but something that's not going to, you know, tear up my painting either. So I'm just going to use a light, little, simple kind of image here. And then we're going to use this in order to create a nice, simple mermaid tail. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to just kind of start creating a nice curve. I think I'm going to create a nice curve here. And this will represent my line that I don't want to draw. And then I'm going to create another curve here. And then I'm going to create a nice little tail. Well, maybe we'll do that tail down a little bit further. See, that's what's great about my chalk is I can just erase it like that, and we'll be able to erase it. We'll be able to erase it real easy once all of our painting is done. Okay, so we've got a bit of like a mermaid tail look going on, a nice little shape for that. And so now I want to go in and I want to create all of the mermaid scales. And so these are important because these are how we're going to create this cool design all together. And so I'm just creating these scales, and I'm drawing these out so I know where I'm going to want to paint. And this is going to make things a lot easier for me when it comes to our painting time. It'll make things a lot easier. I gotta readjust my hold on here. Okay, I think that'll work grand. Alright, so now I'm going to use a nice kind of light purple color for our actual mermaid, because I just want it to be lighter than what we've got going on for the most part. Oh, I don't want this. I want the purple. What am I doing? I want my purple. Oh, that was way too much. That's okay. It was a brand new thing. It was ready to come out and play. Make sure you put your lids right back on your pieces. You don't want even a little bit of dry paint to accumulate around these kind of areas, because then it makes it dry out faster, and we don't want that. Okay, that should be enough. Alright, so now I'm done with my chalk because I got all my stuff drawn out. And so I'm going to shift all this stuff off to the side so I've got more room. And then we're going to start working on this guy. And I've got my trusty brushes over here that make it super easy for me to do so. Alright, so I'm going to get these guys mixed first. Remember, my light color is always going to be what I start with, and I'm going to touch just a tiny bit of that purple in there, and you see how quickly it affects and changes. Make myself more room over here. Oh, does he not fit? There we go. So I'm going to add some water to this. Now remember, I'm trying to be careful as I mix it. I don't really want to create a big mess. on my brush. So I'm trying to get this guy fairly mixed, and I'm going to want it kind of transparent. So I'm adding a bunch of water to this. I'm just using a paper plate because this is literally the only color that we're mixing, guys. Add a little bit more purple in that. That way it's more evident it's purple. But you see how I'm mixing small amounts in here as we go. Trying to keep my paint pulled up in the center. Push it around in a nice way, not in a bully way. Okay, so now I've got my paint all mixed. I'm actually going to squeeze out my brush because I don't need this brush. I'm going to put that in that one actually. Alright, so I'm going to use a small, I think this one will work. And so now what I'm going to do, guys and gals, is I'm going to take a bit of this and we're going to start working on getting our... Actually, you know what? I'm going to work with two brushes. Look at this. So I'm going to have a little bit of water on one brush, and then I'm going to have another brush that has the paint. And we're actually going to fill these guys out like this. Well, maybe that won't work. Yeah, that will work. So I did a little layer of paint there. I'm staying within all of my chalk lines as I lay these down. So I'm going to redefine that just a little bit. And then we're going to work on getting, you know what, I'm not going to use that one. I don't really like that one. It's a little hard. There we go. And so then I'm going to take these guys and I'm just going to blend them out. Staying within and not touching my chalk lines. Staying within and not touching my chalk lines. It's going to look weird and you're like, what kind of project does Amber have me doing right now? It'll be fun. So I'm just kind of staying in between, getting these guys painted in. And look, they've got that transparent look, which is really all that we're looking for on this. And we're just doing a fun, quick little painting. This is playing around with just a couple different techniques, layering some things together. I like to do simple images when I'm playing around with mixed media because it kind of lets me focus on how I'm going to get the mediums to kind of play with each other first and kind of work out that problem before I start really trying to create a full realized image, you know. This is good practice for artists, I think, because, you know, we want to practice out our techniques. It helps us become better artists, and it lets us, you know, create these cool little fun images. So I'm going through creating these scales. Remember, this is a project where we're not too terribly concerned about a lot of perfection because, again, I'm just teaching you guys techniques. You're the ones that are going to take this to the next level. I've got more white right here. Remember, this was that L I wasn't happy with. But look how I'm going to be able to kind of cover up and fix some of that because I'm going to do some of those a little bit bolder right there, so that I can get that taken care of. You know, kill two birds with one stone here. So I'm just going back over some of these over here, make sure I've got some nice bold ones. And I'm going through and getting all of my little scales kind of painted in. Now remember, I want these to be kind of see-through because we want these scales to kind of peek through the colors that we've already got going on, and just create this sense of just a mermaid kind of tail, or fish tail really. It could read as either. We're just going in and getting these details painted in. This is a simple follow along project that I thought would be fun for our FriYay. We don't always do like these paint along kind of projects, but I know people also like these because it makes it easier to kind of understand and grasp the idea of painting. And so you notice I'm using a real small brush because I want to make sure I can get all the detail in here that I need to. And as we build more and more, it becomes less and less awkward teenage phase, and it starts coming together as a realized kind of painting. Yeah, I think I like them better with the bolder scales. You know, I was just trying to play mashup together. I kind of did a little grab bag of mixed media, and then, I was thinking it was hot in summer, and I started thinking about what represented summer, and that was fish. Fishing or mermaids just was something that came to my brain. Okay, so we're going in, we're continuing to get all of our little mermaid scales painted in. Notice I'm avoiding all of my chalk. Yes, it looks awkward, guys. I get it. I know it looks awkward. It does look awkward. It's awkward teenage phase. Welcome to awkward teenage phase, y'all. Happy you could make it. So we're going to go in, get these guys taken care of. So I'm getting my... Remember, I mixed a bunch of water in with my paint. You guys watch me. Make sure you're doing the same thing. It'll look fairly opaque when you're painting it, but as it dries, it will indeed start to work for you. So I'm going in, getting the rest of my scales drawn in. Trying to make sure that I'm kind of following these diagrams that I drew out. Now I'm altering them as I go because I went so fast. Perhaps they weren't all in line with each other. That's okay. Just going in and getting these filled in with my watered down paint. That helps me create out and get the rest of these guys recorded. And so I'm just going in, continuing to get these guys drawn out. Getting all the scales in. These are the smaller scales that are kind of rounding on the outside areas. So I'm just trying to make sure I get those taken care of and added in as well, because those can also work to give us a really nice kind of showcase and boundary. I'm going to go in and fix this because I was resting my arm on that a bunch. So now we're going to go through and we're going to get the rest of the tail taken care of. And so I'm just going to do that with some long line work here. I'm just going to go in and create a nice line. Remember, I'm loading up my brush each time so that I can make sure that I've got a nice clean line with regular curve and with a good amount of pigment in there. So you see how I'm starting to kind of create these guys. Now I'm running out of gas there, meaning I'm running out of pigment. So I'm just kind of taking that on there. I like drawing away from myself. Now remember, I don't want these guys to touch, so I need to be very careful, make sure that they're not touching. And I want to get my main core ones out. So you see with this tail, I'm not building them right next to each other, I'm kind of doing them in regular steps. And I'm trying to keep, like right here is the center. So I can't really have many more meet me there in the middle, right? So now I'm going to have to create little shorter lines. And I'm going to create some little fat triangle areas here. And this will help me fill out the rest in between the lines. And with those fatter triangles that are kind of curved here, they're also going to give me a really good outside boundary line. So I'm just going to go in, create these guys to fill in the rest of the space, always leaving distance in between the two. And so I'm just going to create kind of one line there and one here. We're going to make these guys connect. Oh yeah, that's turning out nice. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. And get these guys lined out. And so we're just going in, filling in our stuff. Remember, this is going to end up being an implied line once we erase out all of our chalk. You wouldn't think it would make a big deal visually, but right now it does. It looks, you can see the chalk in between, and it makes a difference. Alright, so I'm done with that side of the tail. That's looking pretty neat, y'all. Yeah? And so now I'm going to work on the other side. And remember, I got to keep my guys at equal distance. So I've got to do the same thing with this side that I did with the other side. And that's making sure that I start with my lines in a certain manner so that I get an equal amount of them, kind of taking care of the structure of the vein structure. And now we're going to use the fatter shapes in order to pull and add some more of our outside boundary line. And so I'm just taking these guys, and see, I'm just filling this in. This is why it's good to do some automatic art, This is the creativity that is good for your mind, body, and soul. The problem-solving process of creating is a process that is extremely important in every single other aspect of our lives. So this is a fantastic process, if anything, to learn how to flex those muscles in order to problem solve in ways that are innovative and that can help you in your personal life, business, et al. So I'm just going in and I'm filling in between my framework here. And again, this is going to help me keep track of my outside configuration line. As a matter of fact, I think I want to make this a little longer, because I think I should have. There we go. I think that'll look better. And so now I'm going to go in. This guy taken care of and filled in. And I'm going to add one more little section here just to fill in this extra. And I'm just going to undulate that a little bit with how hard I hold my brush down on my piece. So now I've got a fun little piece with my credit card background. I've got some stamps showing through here and there. It adds a real neat bit of depth on here. And so I'm also now going to take my hairdryer on here again. So we're going to get this guy totally dry. Which it won't take very long. We were using fairly watered down paint, and so I'm just going to take a little bit of my paper, or not paper, of my painting little rag here, and I dipped it in some water. And so now I'm going to start getting rid of my bits of chalk. And so I'm going to get all these guys wiped off. And then what happens is this is not pulling away, and it's not taking away now from our painting. And so when you have all of that off, now you've got something that kind of comes across more. Let me get you guys switched over. Comes across more as this neat kind of stencil, right? Playing around with implied lines, because we didn't actually draw the lines in between everything, and we let that background kind of peek through, which gives us a really neat, different kind of look. You can apply this to a bunch of different things, not just a mermaid tail. You can do a lot of really cool kind of monochromatic overlays on top of this really interesting background that we played around with our credit cards, which gives us some really cool little abstract looks. And then you can also kind of see just barely some of those stamps kind of coming through. And again, the idea with that is not that you can really see the totality of the stamps, but that you see these little bits and pieces busting through the paint. The underneath is very important to the surface, kind of the same way people are. And so if we spend the time to play around with some experimental ways to get our backgrounds done, then it can make our main focus and our main core pop more. For instance, this just drawn on a paper is a line drawing. It looks pretty neat, but not super, super poppy. But now you add this really cool depth of the background, and you know what? I can also add more here. If I take my, here, where's this brush that I didn't like earlier? Because it's good for this task. You know, I can take my white and add just a tiny bit a blue into it too, and by tiny I mean tiny. And so I can take this, make a nice light blue kind of color, and this gives me a great thing to be able to kind of throw more detail and colors in here. You know, we can do the same thing with our purple directly on our mermaid. Playing around with adding more of that onto her tail, etc. So there's a lot of different ways that we can play and continue to build on this project, elevate it, or we can simplify it. You know, you can do this with the kiddos, and it could be a combined project if you've got kids at home, so you can do a collaborative project with them. Have them, do the fun cardboard, credit card part where they're just shoving colors all over the paper, and then you can paint something on top of it. That makes it super easy. And you know, you can find things like this, like you can look up stencils or just doodles, and then you can put in mermaid tail, and then you can find some clip art. That's the word I was looking for. Words, they're hard sometimes. You can pick out some clip art, and those are things that you can use as a basis to kind of trace and grab things on there. You can print out words, you can trace those on these and do those on top of it. You can turn these into monogram paintings. There's lots of ways to play with credit card art and stamps as well. You know, I've got one here that I'm working on, and this is the beginning of a background, so it's actually got dripped, dried acrylic kind of thin down paint, and then I got a bunch of stamps on top of it, and we're going to use this for the basis of another piece at another time. So it makes for really fun beginnings of backgrounds and a different way to play with the materials. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. It is always a fun time to be able to share the creative arts with you. You can tell Doobie over here, he decided to just kind of hang out and clean himself instead of pay attention to the rest of the project. But make sure you're looking at all of our other classes that we have online, and take a look at all the other projects that he really enjoyed. Yesterday was a Big Mouth Animal Day, and we had a blast making some fun little elementary style projects. Remember, Thursdays are our throwback Thursdays for our younger viewers. So we did this really great one with the kitty cat, and he's got a fun little mouse inside of him. Then we did a fun little fish that we did a really fun little guy on him too. So make sure you check out yesterday's if you didn't. That's a great time to just kind of have fun drawing, just relaxation, and make something funny. You know, everybody's screaming a lot these days. You might as well make something look funny when it's screaming, right? Yeah. Well, appreciate you guys so much. Make sure you're taking a look at our live streams, etc. that we have going on this weekend and tonight. Make sure you're taking a look at our donation links. Please, businesses like ours are going underwater very quickly. So if there are places like ours that sing to your soul, please make sure you're talking to your city representatives. Please make sure you're talking to your county representatives, your state representatives, your federal, everybody. Talk to everybody. Anything that you can do to help assist the local businesses that very much need assistance and need the ability to operate. These are things, you know, money doesn't come out of nowhere. And so we're really grateful that we've been able to stay open as long as we have. But, you know, we definitely need some changes in the scape as we move forward so that we can continue to do that and continue to give back to the community. This is a project that is near and dear not only to our hearts, but to a lot of other people's hearts in the area. At least we hope so. And we, you know, want to be able to continue to service everyone and help our community in a variety of ways. Much love, you guys. You have a wonderful weekend. It's Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday. I will be back on at 4 p.m. and we will be working on our long-term project. This will be part 2 for our long-term project. So make sure you're catching up on the collage, the cutting out of magazine pictures that we started last time. We're going to start working on putting those together, maybe cutting out some more, and just continuing to, you know, be community together and use our regular everyday materials in order to create, making our mind, body, and soul happier and together and all that jazz. Make sure you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see